Ladies and gentlemen, the Near Fall Network proudly brings to you the modern day Micah Raja, the guru of grappling gab, the one, the only shooter!
Near Fall Nation, say hello to the bald guy, and welcome to another edition of Drive-By with Shooter. As always, thanks for stopping in and seeing what I do here at the Near Fall Network. I have a big show, a lot of topics. This week has been very news crazy, news heavy, and of course, I like to focus on news, the social media aspect of professional wrestling. I like to refer to myself as the voice of reason because I like to calm everybody down when it comes to certain things that occur in professional wrestling. Sometimes you just need cooler heads to prevail and things just need to develop. All that in mind, as I said, crazy week in professional wrestling. I want to start out talking about somebody who is very, very well known in the wrestling game and continues to make his living outside of the wrestling game because of wrestling, and that is one Vince Russo. In case you are behind, Vince Russo was the head writer for WWE for a very long time, mainly during the time of the Monday Night Wars, and is credited and often credits himself with some of the best ideas ever put on the WWE television. But Vince Russo left the company on his own will, went to WCW, and then WCW folded. Now, you can listen to rumor and innuendo, you can go by anything you want, but bad blood there, I don't know for sure. But these days, Vince Russo pretends to hate everything there is about wrestling and pretends to not even care about wrestling in general, yet makes a living off talking about wrestling. And what I'm referring to is, this past weekend, we as wrestling fans or NXT fans were treated to an absolutely fantastic match on NXT. And that match was former UK champion Tyler Bate, his tag team partner Trent Seven, they go by Mustache Mountain, and they took on current UK champ Pete Dunne, and he found a partner in Mark Andrews. Now, fantastic fun, enjoyable match, a lot of highlight spots and high spots in this match that kind of took the fans by storm and took the internet by storm, and there were gifs of these moves and things just being tweeted and retweeted and shared on Facebook and social media, and it was a lot of fun, and it showed when wrestling's good and when things go well in a match, how it can really spread like a wildfire and just kind of get everybody excited about what's happening in the world of professional wrestling. Now, Vince Russo took it upon himself to respond to one of the gifts that was going around, which, and if I get the spot off, I apologize, but tag team match, and I believe Tyler Bate was on the corner post up on the top turnbuckle. Mark Andrews did a Hurricanrana, flipping him into Pete Dunne, who was in the ring, and finished off with a powerbomb. It was an amazing spot to watch. So much so that was the main one that was shared and tossed around the internet. So of course Vince Russo had to put his 2 cents in. And I don't even have the tweet in front of me, but he basically was claiming that this is one of the things that's ruining the business because this suspension of disbelief and this move wouldn't work in a real fight and blah, blah, blah. Like, it's hard for me to fathom how a guy who wrote things like the Katie Vick story and, you know, the Big Show, Big Boss Man angle where Big Show's dad died, like, is worried about suspension of disbelief in a wrestling pretend fight. We're not in the day and age where people don't understand that this is a predetermined match. An athletic display, really, is what this is. We're all aware of that, and we're all okay with it, and we still continue to watch it because we're okay with it. Yet somehow, Vince Russo doesn't like that. And Vince Russo likes to claim that he is the best of the best and claim that he is above everything when it comes to pro wrestling, so much so that he wants to distance himself from the current product, yet all he does on his podcasts and his talk shows is talk about the current product and how bad it is and how much better it could be if he was there. And he might not come out and directly say that, but that's pretty much what the guy's getting at. And it's funny because Vince Russo calls everybody a mark. And I'm not going to get real in depth in that, but everybody's a mark for something, and it gets turned into a bad word, and really, really, although the initial meaning for that word, which is maybe an idea for another show, but comes from a Carney term, it's not a bad word. If you're a mark, you're a fan. If you're a fan of something, then enjoy it. It doesn't just extend to professional wrestling. People are marks for certain kinds of music, certain food, certain TV shows, certain actors or actresses, or anything of the likes. Some people are marks for certain beers. Some people are marks for certain automobiles. It's just, if you're a fan of something, you're a fan of something. And if you have passion for something, that's good. But Vince Russo tries to turn it into something bad, sits there and makes fun of people who enjoy something, and talks about how he can't believe two grown men are sitting there and doing a show or a podcast talking about a wrestling TV show that's predetermined when he is making a living doing a podcast talking about guys who are talking about a wrestling show that's predetermined. Do you see the irony in that? Bottom line is, Vince Russo is a mark for himself. And Vince Russo is going to do anything he can do to stay relevant and stay on people's lips. And here we are, drive-by, and I'm talking about him. They say controversy creates cash. I think Eric Bischoff once said that. And he's probably true. And Vince Russo isn't going anywhere. But I'm just here to let you know, it's okay to be a wrestling fan, and it's okay to enjoy things about pro wrestling that not everybody else enjoys. And you're allowed to like certain things, and people are allowed to like other things and dislike what you like. That's life, people, and that's the way it is. When we come back, is it the return of the seven deities? Are we seeing an awakening or a breakening in the WWE Universe? Hang tight. We'll talk about all that could be a broken universe in the WWE. Welcome back, Nearfall Nation. I want to continue today with some developing stories. If you watch Monday Night Raw, then you're completely aware of what happened to Matt Hardy post his Bray Wyatt loss. And if you're a TNA fan or followed TNA, then you know Matt went into a fury with the delete motion, which is from his character, Broken Matt Hardy. This broken universe, as they call it, was kind of held up when they left TNA, and it gets very confusing, and I can't even keep track of it because I don't even know who the hell owns TNA at this current point. But Matt claims right to it. Matt and Jeff claim right to it. Rebby Hardy, Matt's wife, claims a right to it because they all believe that they created it. And that was being held up in court and litigation and all this stuff that we as fans just want to sit back and enjoy, really shouldn't want to care about. But when you want to see something presented on television and it can't be because of litigation, you hear about it, you get involved, you read about it, you learn. I don't know what happened, but something happened on the TNA side. That's just what I'm going to call them because, like I said, I don't even know who owns them anymore. But apparently, Matt can do that character now. And it's being reported that it won't exactly be called Broken Matt Hardy. It might be slightly different per WWE. It's looking like it's going to be Woken Matt Hardy, which I find interesting because it could definitely take a different take if they were able to use some of the property, and I use that with air quotes on a podcast, property of the Broken Universe that Matt Hardy created in TNA. I don't know how far this extends, as in he owns this, he owns that, but if he could use some of the video footage, maybe use some backstory to explain to WWE fans who Broken Matt was and why now he's Woken Matt. I don't know. I don't know if that's the route they go. I don't know if they completely forget the broken stuff and start this as a new, because we all know Vince likes to have control, and Vince likes to be a creator. So if it's not something he completely created, he's usually not on board with it. However, this is a money train, guys. Like, the Broken Matt Hardy character was probably one of the single greatest creations in TNA's existence, and they, from all likelihood, had nothing to do with it other than telling Matt do what he wants and giving him, creative freedom to do that and create this character and this universe. But whether we get a Broken, a Woken, a continuation, a new chapter, a new beginning, I don't know. But I'm excited for the fact that little things from the old character have come back. If you paid attention to Twitter this weekend, or actually this Thursday and Friday night, Matt Hardy sent out a video basically restating that the war has started and the 7 deities are coming, and reactivated Vanguard 1, the drone that he used in the Broken Universe. That Twitter account or Instagram is back up, and he's calling for Vanguard 1 to come help him again. Like, this is kind of surreal to watch it come, like it's going to play out all over again, all new, for a new audience, for a new group of people to watch, take in, and enjoy. And if you really think about it, WWE and the production value and the landscape they have is just ripe and ready for this. But the fans have to give it a chance. You look at guys and girls that could fit into this broken landscape. I mean, let's be honest, the Broken character, Brother Nero, all of that is, I guess, a supernatural kind of character. And me personally, I love supernatural characters in my pro wrestling. I enjoyed Papa Shango when I was little, and I loved The Undertaker. Who doesn't? So you look at WWE's landscape today, you have guys that walk that fine line. You have a Bray Wyatt, you have a Finn Balor, you have a Kane still active on the roster, at least for the time being. When Jeff Hardy heals, we can bring the Brother Nero aspect back into this. You even spur and go further. You look at the NXT roster, and I think even though they're not supernatural, but a group like Sanity, I totally see something like that working with the Hardys, with the Broken Hardys or the Woken Hardys or whatever the hell you want to call them at this point in time. So I'm interested to see how this plays out. Now, as I say, voice of reason, right off the bat, you see the negative comments of, well, we were finally getting this, but it's Vince McMahon and it's not going to work out and he's going to get in the way and he's going to ruin it. And I'm just asking everybody, you can't put something down. You can't be against something before it even starts, because then no matter how good it is, you don't give it a chance right off the bat because you're already against it. You can't be against something before it starts and expect to enjoy it. It just doesn't work that way. So we need to see where this develops. I like the fact that he's using his social media accounts to start to spread this word and start to kind of get this universe kind of rolling. And that, to me, is exciting. I know WWE does little things here and there on social media, trying to intertwine it and get things moving. But, I mean, right off the bat, we get the Vanguard 1 and we get the little minute trailer that he did, kind of slightly explaining what's going on, but not really explaining anything at all. But you get what I'm saying. We are seeing what appears to be Matt Hardy taking control of this. And I'm sure he doesn't have freedom, at least complete freedom, but maybe, just maybe, we cross our fingers and we sit here and we think that everybody in this company knows what's best for this, and knows what's best is to get Matt Hardy's input and let Matt Hardy run with it within reason. It's always going to be within reason. Do I think Matt Hardy is going to get a 45-minute segment on Monday Night Raw to tell a broken story? Probably not. It is probably not going to happen. Although, at times, Raw really does kind of lag. And I think that that would not be a bad thing. It would not be a bad thing to have Matt Hardy and his broken brilliance kind of step into it and give the fans something that they want. At least they're saying they want it. And you always do run into that fact that once they have it, will they enjoy it? And again, if they're negative about it right off the bat, kind of comes into question is it going to be what it can be, or are the fans going to let it be what it can be, or is the corporation, Vince McMahon, and the powers that be going to let it be all that it can and all that it could? Only time will tell, guys, but we have to sit back and let it play out. I don't know where they go from here. I don't know. I mean, I feel like part of the reason that Matt was kind of in the background with Jeff being out and then coming into his own, really trying to build that, is because this was kind of in limbo and they didn't know. I think they didn't want to go full bore if it was going to get shut down, and at the same time they didn't really have anything to do with Matt without Jeff there. And maybe this is all happenstance, or maybe this is all planning and we knew it was coming. But no, we saw things coming for a few weeks. We saw the breakdown backstage. I think it was at a Raw, and then with the pre-show match for Survivor Series, he gets beat and gets kind of beat up, and his shoulder with Elias, and then Bray kind of played on the same thing. So I think that maybe this was good planning, and maybe it's going to work out very well. I don't know. But I also know, as I've stated before on this podcast, Vince loves money, and Vince likes making money. And the Broken/woken universe taking over the WWE universe is a fantastic way to make that green. Speaking of green, and speaking of increases, a little bit of news that seems to be going under the radar, and some rumors that have kind of been confirmed about a beloved musician no longer with the company. Hang tight, we'll be right back. Welcome back. Something that surprisingly has gone kind of under the radar. I've only seen one reporting of this, and this comes from f4wonline.com. This kind of, I guess it doesn't surprise me, but it does show when things are going well, or at least better for WWE. People don't really make a big deal about it, but it's when they have an issue, it's when they have a problem, it's when they don't like something, when people want to bring it up and constantly talk about it, which is kind of the point where I'm seeing something good and it's not really being talked about that much online. But what I have for you guys, SmackDown ratings for the 4th straight week are increasing. They're averaging 2.68 million viewers, and that's a big deal. This is, we're back in the AJ Styles, era where AJ's again the champ that runs the camp, and I'm happy about that. Everyone else seems to be happy about that. Viewers seem to be happy about that. But I wanted to read you a couple of things off of here. SmackDown retained a 97.4% of Raw's audience this week, and it's the second highest retention since the brand split. So they're getting people to watch, and they're, even though Raw's the quote-unquote A show, SmackDown's once again nipping on their heels, excuse me. And I find it interesting because we had the gender experiment, and obviously it didn't really work out that well. Did it work? I say no. Most people say no. And it really just kind of seemed like something we all thought we wanted. We all wanted new people. We all want new people to get opportunities. And it just was like, yeah, but that wasn't the guy. And I don't know if it was gender. We all kind of question his in-ring ability, and that's a kind of a topic for another thing. But let's be honest, his booking wasn't great. His promos, if they were written for him completely, and he didn't fight the fact that he's saying the same thing week in, week out, it's kind of on him. But again, let's be honest, the guy was in a pretty conspicuous spot. I mean, plucked from obscurity to be WWE champion, I can get him being uncomfortable saying anything, and that's rough on him. But we saw the attendance photos, we saw how ratings were going down, we saw how the title, the WWE Championship, was buried at the show open in 8:45 instead of being the main topic of the show. And to me, that's crazy. But everyone wanted to talk about that. Everyone wanted to talk about the failure of SmackDown and the failure of Jinder Mahal. And now we're reading how SmackDown is, for 4 weeks in a row, increasing their ratings and averaging high numbers, keeping most of the Raw viewers, most of the viewers that Raw get, are tuning into SmackDown again. This is a good thing, guys. And if nothing else, it speaks volumes to how important AJ Styles has become to this company and is to this company. AJ Styles, a guy who didn't know if he'd ever set foot in a WWE ring, is now a 2-time WWE champion and is carrying the SmackDown brand on his shoulders. And the thing that I really want to take away from this, and I want you guys to take away from this, especially if you're a fan of the Phenomenal One, is that this company needs him right now. This brand needs him. SmackDown brand needs him. And I feel like just seeing this, and pray and cross my fingers that I'm not wrong about this, but it really makes me think that this WWE Championship title is going to stay with AJ Styles for the foreseeable future. We've all got our fingers crossed for the Styles-Nakamura match at WrestleMania. That match technically does not need a title, but oh boy, would that be a phenomenal WrestleMania co-main event. Something else I want to touch on before we go today, Nearfall Nation, is the rumor that has, I guess, been confirmed by Pro Wrestling Sheets online that Jim Johnson has been released by the WWE. Now, if you're like, who's that and why should I care? Jim Johnson, for 30 plus years, was the guy when it came to wrestling themes. I mean, he's the guy responsible for Brock Lesnar's theme. He's the guy responsible for Stone Cold Steve Austin's theme, The Rock, D-Generation X. I mean, if you really look at some of the great themes that came out of the Attitude Era, that was Jim Johnson. But the reason I want to talk about it is to go the other way. This kind of got reported late Thursday night that there were a couple of Twitter accounts, both wrestling theme Twitter accounts, believe it or not, those exist. And they're pretty much, I'm going to say this as nicely as I can, but they're Jim Johnson fanboy accounts. Now, I don't mean to say that out of disrespect for Jim Johnson, because he's created some of the most memorable wrestling themes that, I grew up with in my childhood and through my adolescence and teenage years. Some of these themes that are pretty much iconic, and you cannot take that away from him. But it's the internet's kind of treating it like this is the biggest tragedy that could ever befall WWE at this current time, and I just don't see that. And I apologize if that offends anyone, but we're acting like Jim Johnson being released from the WWE today in 2017, the last month of 2017, that things are going to change for WWE and things are going to change the way the themes and the entrance songs sound, and it's just not the case. Jim Johnson hasn't written a used theme. I take that back. Jim Johnson is responsible for the newer Baron Corbin theme, which, quite frankly, isn't all that great, at least in my opinion. I'm sure some people dig it. I actually liked his other one, and I don't know who wrote that one, but I mean, a quick iTunes search of Jim Johnson songs, other than the Baron Corbin song, the most recent might be The Shield, which is a solid theme, but it's also kind of basic and got transferred to Roman Reigns when the Shield broke up. So it's kind of one of those things where the internet's losing their mind over a guy who worked for 30. You want to lose your mind over it, you can say, hey, look, this guy gave the company 30 plus years, wrote some classics, and he's getting pushed off to the pasture. Okay, great. I'll give you that argument all day long, but you're going to sit here and argue that the themes are going to go downhill and wrestling's going to be garbage because their Music Man isn't there anymore, when he hasn't written a majority of the themes that they use in years. The ones that people talk about today, Shinsuke's theme, Bobby Roode's Glorious theme, Finn Balor's theme, Sasha Banks, Asuka, all of these themes have been written by CFO, the group that's been writing a majority of the themes for the wrestlers, intros for NXT, SmackDown, some of the Raw ones. They've all been written by CFO. Since 2012 is when I believe they made their debut, starting to do some of these tracks for WWE. So you're bringing new people in 2012 and slowly transitioning to a new guard. And it's taken 5 years plus to finally make them your main guys and get rid of the old guy. And I mean, that sounds kind of harsh, but from the way that it was read, his contract was up and they've been doing some house cleaning. And if I'm a business person, and we all have to remember, this is a business. If I'm a business person and I'm like, hey, I get this group of 3 guys, I believe it's 3 guys, called CFO, that have been writing a majority of my themes. And I pay these guys X amount of dollars. They come to some of the shows when they're in town. They do edits on the fly, this, that, and the other. And then I have this guy who's been with the company for 30 plus years. He does maybe 1 theme a year. I'm paying him to do that. Probably a decent amount. Now, he's been doing one theme a year. These guys are knocking these ones out of the park. And his contract's up, so I don't have to keep him on. Business-wise, you're trying to make money. What do? You get rid of the guy who's doing the least amount of work, and you keep the guys who are doing the most amount of work, especially when they're doing a good job. You know, people can sit here and talk shit on CFO because Jason Jordan's theme took 6-7 tries before it got halfway decent. Look, not everything's going to be knocked out of the park. And I've seen people say online that, well, Jim Johnson would do a one take and it'd be great. Listen, coming from someone who plays and wrote music, it doesn't always just come to you at the first try. It just doesn't. So anyone who says that and believes that Jim Johnson is that good, you're insane. It just doesn't happen every single time that everything you write is perfect from the get-go. It doesn't. And that doesn't just reflect on the writing team of CFO or Jim Johnson. That also reflects on the character. That reflects on the wrestler. That reflects on everything that's been given to the musical writing team to figure out what this wrestling superstar's character is and what the athlete's character is. And sometimes it might be an easy fit. Sometimes it might not be. It's just the way things go. But the thing to keep in mind is that we're still in a good place. We have good wrestling themes going on right now. I mean, let's be honest, the Glorious theme got Bobby Roode over before Bobby Roode even had a set foot in that ring. And that can be a very, very, very good thing. The themes are still in good hands. The product's not going to diminish because Jim Johnson is no longer a part of the company. I credit him for everything he's ever done. He did amazing work for the WWE. And if I had to pick a favorite Jim Johnson track, there's no doubt it's got to be the Undertaker theme. Because if there's nothing more iconic than that bell tolling and the dead man walking down the aisle to the eerie Graveyard Symphony. Guys, I say it every week. It's been real. It's been fun. We'll catch you next time.